Welcome to the I Am Mom Summit. I am thrilled to be here with you today to talk about more Z's, please. 5 tips to help improve your child's sleep. My name is Dr. Ebony, and I'm a board certified developmental and behavioral pediatrician. It is my mission in life to help parents to parent more confidently, consistently, and compassionately. And I also help parents support their child so that they may reach his or her personal, developmental, and behavioral potential. So, why is sleep so important? Well, I'm glad you asked. Sleep is a really common issue in many families, including my own. And so, you're in good company if you've joined us today because you're concerned about your child's sleep. In fact, concerns regarding sleep is one of the most common questions parents ask their child's pediatrician. And so, that being said, it's important for a lot of reasons. But from my standpoint, as a developmental and behavioral pediatrician, lack of sleep can definitely negatively affect a child's development and behavior. A lot of times we just think about the behavioral piece, in that children who don't get enough sleep or who are chronically sleep deprived are much more likely to be crankier, to be more irritable, to have more tantrums, to have poor impulse control, etc. In fact, it can make a child appear so dysregulated and hyperactive that parents can wonder if their child actually has ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. In fact, when parents come to me with the question of whether or not their child has ADHD, sleep history is one of the important things that I talk to parents about. And that is because lack of sleep can look very much like ADHD. Now, that being said, the piece that is not so commonly talked about with regards to lack of sleep is development. Lack of sleep can impair your child's overall development. It can help reduce their ability to retain information. It can worsen their memory. It can decrease their focus and their attention. So, there are many, many, many reasons why we want to help make sure our child is getting enough sleep. That being said, it's lots of things that go into making a child sleep better or making a child sleep worse. And it's important not only to the child, but to his family as a whole. The reason why I say that is because if one child in the family is not sleeping well, chances are the parents aren't getting great sleep and neither are their siblings. And so it's not just an individual thing, it really is a family thing. And families who struggle with sleep are more likely to be more stressed and more distressed and have overall lower quality of life. That's why this is such a big deal and why it's so important to talk about it. And so, one of the things I want you to keep in mind is that we really need to know what to expect for our child's age and developmental level. For example, I just remember when my little one was a newborn. I just don't ever remember being so tired. Med school residency, nothing quite touches that sleep deprivation like that of a new mom. Anyway, it just really felt like he didn't sleep for longer than a few seconds at a time. I just remember being so tired and just wanting him to sleep. But, taking a step back from it, I had to realize that I really shouldn't expect him to sleep for long stretches when he's so little like that. In fact, we shouldn't expect kids to sleep in longer stretches until they're about 5 months old. That doesn't mean you're not as tired. It doesn't mean that you don't wish your baby would sleep. It just means that we can't really expect a child to do something that they're just not developmentally yet ready to do. That being said, we're in the toddler phase now. And so if there are any moms of toddlers out there, you're with me when you hear one more glass of water, one more hug, one more bedtime story. I don't want to sleep in my bed, I want to sleep in mommy's bed, etc. And it goes on and on. So the struggle is real, and there can be different struggles and different challenges, throughout your child's life. Over the years, it changes. The amount of sleep that they should get changes. For example, newborns can sleep up to 20 hours a day, but it doesn't feel like it because it's not necessarily in long stretches. And the older the child gets, the less hours of sleep they require in the 24-hour period. And then the number of naps decline. Whereas, for example, a young toddler might sleep 2 or 3 times for nap time during the day. And then by the time most children are 5, they don't nap anymore. Just to give you a little bit of background. And so, that being said, now let's just move on to our 5 tips to help improve your child's sleep. So, for tip number 1, avoid screen time for at least 1 hour prior to your child going to sleep. Okay, y'all hear me out, okay? And so that means all screens, cell phones, tablets, TV, video games, etc. Well, why? Why is that so important? That blue light that the screens emit can actually decrease melatonin, which is a hormone your body produces to help regulate sleep. And if your body isn't making enough melatonin, then you can have a harder time falling asleep and staying asleep. And the other thing is, it's just those flashing lights. It just activates the brain and makes it harder to settle down to fall asleep. So please, please try to avoid screen time for at least 1 hour prior to bedtime. Number 2, avoid late naps if you can, because if you sleep too late and too close to bedtime, you can have a harder time falling asleep. Number 3, we want you to create a good sleep environment. And so what that means is it can mean different things for different people, because obviously some people like a little bit of a night light. Some kids like for it to be completely dark. Some kids like soft music or white noise. Other kids require it to be completely silent. And so just kind of getting a good sense through trial and error of what your child needs to sleep well will be very helpful in improving his or her sleep. Other environmental things to think about is, you don't want the lights to be too bright or for it to be too loud or for the child to be too warm or too cool. Also, make sure what they are wearing is comfortable. For several nights in a row, my little one just could not sleep, and I couldn't figure out why. We were doing the routine. We made sure that he was relaxed. We weren't doing screen time before bedtime. And then finally, one night, I noticed that he was just kind of doing this, and I noticed that it was the tag in his pajamas that was bothering him. So sometimes you can do some problem solving to figure out why your child may not be sleeping well. And it could just be because they're uncomfortable for some reason. So definitely doing some investigation can help figure out sleep problems sometimes. So for tip number 4, and a lot of parents fall into this trap, and I have myself a time or two, I'm going to be honest with you, but trying to keep your child up a little bit later or skipping nap time, thinking that it could make your child more tired so that they can sleep longer and not wake up so early in the morning, can actually backfire. It can make children overly tired and then they have a harder time sleeping. And so I want you to avoid that if you can. So for tip number 5, last but certainly not least, and this really kind of encompasses the other 4 tips, is consistency and routine. If you can keep your child's routine as consistent as possible, you're going to be so much better off and your child's going to sleep so much better. And that can include wake time, bedtime, naps, meal times, etc. If you can just keep that schedule and keep things pretty routine, it's going to go a long way. One of the most important parts of the routine, I think, is the bedtime routine. We already talked about avoiding screen time and that kind of thing, but that's what I don't want you to do. What I do want you to do is have a consistent, short, simple routine. By short, I mean less than 10 or 15 minutes or so, something relaxing. You're ending the day. Sometimes it can be as simple as bath time, pajamas, story, night. But whatever you do, just do it pretty much the same way every night. You don't want it to be too complicated, because if your grandma, for example, is responsible for bedtime for the weekend, you want her to be able to implement the routine too. So you don't want it to be too long or too complicated. And that being said, while consistency and routine are important, I don't want you to not live life because you're trying so hard to stick to this strict routine. So we want you to stick with the routine as much as possible, but if you're going to miss, an important family dinner because you're worried you're going to be out too late, I don't want you to do that, because certainly a late night here or there, or going on vacation, etc., can get your sleep routine off a little bit, but that's not a reason not to enjoy your time and your family together. Just want you to get back on track as soon as possible, because good habits are harder to form than they are to break. One night of not sleeping on time can take weeks to recover. And so just do the best you can with that. And so, lastly, I want to give you a bonus tip. And this is something that parents often don't think about, and that's avoiding caffeine. Yes, that iced tea at dinner or the chocolate cookie that your child has for dessert after dinner can impair sleep. And yes, chocolate has caffeine in it. I can't tell you the number of times parents are like, "What? I didn't even think about that." So just kind of keep that in mind if your child is having trouble sleeping and you're trying to figure out just what the deal is. So, just to kind of recap our tips on helping to improve your child's sleep: number one, avoiding sleep time too close to bedtime. Number two, avoiding late naps. Number three, creating a good sleep environment. Number four, making sure your child is not too overly tired. Tip number five, which I think is the most important, having consistency and routine in place. It's good for everybody, but children especially do well when they have a good routine and they know what to expect. And for our bonus tip, avoiding caffeine. That's one that many people don't think about. And so, that being said, thank you so much again for taking time to join me. I hope that you found this helpful today, and I hope that you'll be able to implement some of these to improve sleep for your child and for your entire family. I would love it if you would follow me on all social media platforms. You can find me at Dr. Eboni Peeds. That's DrEboniPeds. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye bye.